everybody. Today we'd like to talk about Erlang plugin for IntelliJ. It's not a new approach, but 2 years ago I started my hobby project and some weekends because it was too rainy, and I convert some grammar, especially Erlang grammar, to our notation and create some simple project after several hours. And after 1 or 2 weeks I published it on GitHub, and I got some feedback. And last year I told about this project in Stockholm on Erlang conference. So what is IntelliJ IDE? It's our flagship IDE for a lot of languages and frameworks, and it's really good for some kind of mixed project when you'd like to use some code for your backside stuff, server sides, and also for some client code like JavaScript. And it's really good because you can manage all the code in some one single project and navigate through your files. So what is the Erlang plugin at the moment? It's almost 2 years project, and at the moment we have several thousand of, I believe, happy users, because every day I started my day with reading emails, and every day I get a lot of emails from users with bug reports and so on. But when I fix it, I get really helpful for me. But it's very impressive when some person told you that, okay, man, it will be really good, and you fix it for several minutes. Okay. And at the moment, I'm not a full-time developer for this project. It's my 20% project in JetBrains. But last summer, Sergey joined this project like a student and continued his work like a full-time developer. And today, he will share some information about what he does and what he did at the moment. So we'll start to talk. Listen, Sergey.
All right.
Presentation.
Hi, everyone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some demo of how you can use IntelliJ for Erlang development, which will include features that are there already, and you can get the idea how to work with it. And after that, I'm going to show you something that is about to come and which is not there yet. So, all right. Right now, we're going to write some simple project, which is a key value database with REST interface to it. Its implementation is pretty naive, and it is almost completed with some issues here and there. So I'm going to show you around and fix these issues there so that you can have a general view on what it is about. So let's move on. The project is going to use MochiWeb, which was imported right from GitHub repository, and it builds both with IntelliJ and Rebar, so we can try it out and see if it works. Let's just run some tests. In IntelliJ, it is as simple as selecting the tasks you want to run and just hitting this hotkey to run them. So now it works there. I'm going to drag it out so that you can see more of it. Here you can see all these tasks here, and you can navigate to their source code and see what's going on there. So let's break something and see how it behaves if some tests are failing. All right, so let's just remove some part of this string here and run the tests again. It takes some time. All right, so here you can switch to the mode where you see only the failed tests. Here is some information on the failed tests. We see that it is an assertion error. And we can navigate to these test source and we're going to fix that. And we hit this rerun failed test button, which reruns only the tests that have failed in previous run, which reduces the total amount of time you run your tests, some of which may take a lot of time. So let's just move on to our project. As you can see, you can run tests here, and it is supported pretty well. And tests can be run with both rebar and IntelliJ internal runner. So let's take a look at our project here. It is an OTP application with its resource file here. And as you can see, it starts with this module named storage. So we can go to this module and see what it does. Oh, excuse me, something wrong here. All right. So here we can see that we start with this storage sub start link function, and we want to go and see what it does. So there is a special hotkey for that. You can navigate to functions declarations just like this. There you go. You have this start link function. And here you see that it is basically a supervisor which spawns some children. And these children are storage dictionary, which implements the database logic itself, and the Mochi Web HTTP, which is responsible for REST interface. So let's move around and see what's wrong here. We have this variable highlighted as unbound here. So we can use introduce variable. And here we have a variable. All right. But we're not sure what this variable should be. So we got to look where is it used. The variable is passed as a first argument to this start link function of module Mochi Web HTTP. So we can use go to module intention here and just type in something that reminds us of this module. So let's go there, and here we have the module, and it is pretty big. You don't know where the start link function is. So you can use this file outline functionality. So here you type STAL, what I've typed here, and that's enough to navigate to the start link function. And here it is. We still have no idea of what options should really be. So we can find usages of this function. It also is done as quickly as one keystroke. And here we have some usage of it in Mochi Web HTTP tests. So let's go there and see what it is. As you can see, it is port and loop. So port is basically HTTP is TCP port, which we're going to use. And loop is a function which is going to handle all the requests. So we can go there and see what it is also. So it gets the requests and responds with some response. All right, so let's write these options there. Here the options are. And we can just write port. Let's use 8080. All right. And as a loop function, we're going to use this storage HTTP dispatch function. Here we go. So let's go and see what this dispatch function does. We're going to use the same sequence of action we used before. So it's storage HTTP. And here is the dispatch function, which basically extracts the HTTP method and request path. Then it obtains the response and responds with it. So as you see here, we have an unused variable, an unbound variable, sorry, which is not bound, apparently. So we can use extract variable. You select any expression you want. In this case, it is get response. And you hit this keystroke, and you have a variable introduction. So here we have a response. All right. So the request itself is handled in this getResponse function, which is not complete, as it doesn't handle request types other than get, post, or delete. So let's just write another one. And Here I used what is called smart completion. So you just hit this key combination and you get something that you were about to write. So we are going to write method, and we are going to respond with method not supported. It's 504, code 504 and not supported. All right. Let's explore further. And as you can see, all the requests are handled through this storage dictionary server, which is a Gen server. And it has some, it should handle these requests, like get, store, and delete. So let's navigate to this module and see what it's all about. As we get here, the first thing we see is that there is a warning about undefined callback function. We can easily implement this. In this presentation mode, you don't really see what happened. So it introduced this code change function, as well as exported it in this export list. So let's see what this implementation is about. So we implemented Gen server. And for example, you don't know what Gen server functions should do. So you can use this hotkey to navigate into callback specifications. So we are going to implement init. We can go to its specification. And as you can see, it should return either OK and the state, or stop and the reason for stop. We're not going to break, so let's just return OK and new state. And as you see here, all other functions like handle cast, they use this state record, which is highlighted as unresolved record. So we don't really have this record around, so we're going to just introduce it. There is an intention for that. You introduce a record, and here is the new record without fields. So we also have this data field there, which is not present in record definition. We can use another intention for that. So we have this data member here. And as you see from its usages, it should be a list. So let's just initialize it with an empty list and see what else is wrong here. We don't have implementation for this handle call function. So let's just write it. It should be something that looks up the record that is requested and returns the correct response to that. So let's handle this get key message and reuse this pattern here. All right. So we're going to use, as you may have noticed, I use a lot of completion here as I've started to type lists. It suggests that there is a lists module, and its functions are also suggested. So we're going to use key find here. And you may also forget about all the parameters that function take. You can use this parameters suggestion, which suggests that the first parameter is term. We're going to use key. The second should be a positive integer. And the last one is the data itself, which we're going to look through. All right. So now we complete this implementation. And if this key value pair was found, we're going to return this OK and value tuple. And if it's not, we're just going to return something like not found. So this is not a correct response, which is intended to be there. We should return something like reply, the reply itself, and the new updated state. So let's just introduce variable here, which should be a reply, all right? And then we're going to return this new tuple. Oh, I hit caps lock. Shift caps lock. All right. Reply, and the state goes unchanged. Great. So now we also have these warnings about unused variables, which are going to bother us when we compile the project, and we can fix them all at once with this fix all unused variable problems. So now they're all renamed, and it should work. All right, so we can build the project. No. All right, so we have a bunch of other unused variables here. Let's just fix them also. You may have noticed that I used navigation right from the build output. There we build it again, and it works. All right, so now we are going to run this example and see if it works. So we are going to need this new run configuration for console. I'll just name it. All right, so here we run it. Let's just enable this wrapping. Right. So in the console, we also have this completion. As you see that there is application module, which have a function start. And our application is named storage, which is also suggested here. And we run it. So the application is running. Now we should test it. We can use a built-in terminal of IntelliJ. And I hope you see that the font is not big enough, but I'm not going to do anything complex here. So I'm just going to do some requests to our written server. Localhost 8080. Let's request something like foo. And what we get is not found, which is what we wanted to return. And now we can post some data. All right, so we've posted it, and it is returned back. You can also delete it, but I'm not going to show it. All right, so this example works, and I'm sure that this gave you a general idea of how you can use it. Now I'm going to talk about things that we have also implemented and which are going to be supported in further versions. So we've added some R17 support, which is going to come out soon. And in this example, we use these maps to mimic the structure of JSON object. So here is an example of JSON object. And I also written this weird implementation of pretty printer for these JSON objects. So I've used this named functions notation, which is new to R17. And I've also added some support for it, so that if you have some wrongly named clauses, you can fix it right there. All right, so it works. Another thing about supporting these new features is debugging support, which is also there. You can run the debugger. All right, so we hit this breakpoint, and we have two local variables, one of which is printer, and the other one is this JSON object. And you can explore the structure of this object by simply by clicking and unrolling these lists, tuples, maps, and whatever you got there. So this is pretty convenient, and it can give you a general idea on what your term is when you debug it. So another cool thing about the debugger is that you can step through all these named functions, and you get this whole stack trace here. And you can navigate through these stack frames, explore local variables, and do all these other stuff that you can do with your debugger. So I've just hit it to complete, and as you see, it has just printed out this JSON object, which is what we intended this program to do. So now I'm going to show you some functionality that is not there yet, but it is surely coming, and it is macros support. When it comes to an IDE for language which have macros support, a lot of problems come up. Some of them are concerning that you may have some things that are not correct Erlang expressions or something like that, but after macro substitution they become ones. and you can use all the IDE support afterwards. So having macros support, you can write something crazy, like let's write some function definition of function name. Basically, I'm writing a hello world application now, but in such a weird manner. Let's see. All right, so this has nothing to do with declaring any function or whatever. Now we can introduce some macros, which is fun name, fun call. So, all right, so this is function name. And it's not a call, it's body. Right? That's what we have here. We have some other macros left. Let's name this function foo. And the last one is call. It's going to be a call to a module function and args to it. All right, so what you can see now is that this macro call is highlighted with problem after macro substitution, which is an unused function. You can fix this by removing the function, which removes the whole macro call, and by exporting this function. The cool thing is that this declaration of function becomes accessible, and you can use it while writing code in other places. So as you can see here, you have a suggestion having this foo function here. But enough of crazy stuff. Let me show you some example which is there and people use it really. So this is a piece of code from this web framework named Nitrogen. You guys should be familiar with this one. And what it has there, it is a bunch of record definitions for all the HTML elements. And they are defined using macros, which in turn use macros inside them. And when you type, you're not sure which fields are there in these records. So if you have macros support, it becomes really easy. So you can just write, for example, H. And then you have these suggestions of record fields that are there, and they're obtained through macro substitution. So this is all I wanted to show you guys. Now back to Sergey.
Hi again, and at the moment I'd like to show some interesting features which will be in upcoming releases. Some really funny stuff for me, first of all, and very useful the second. For example, it's all about type inference and type types. For instance, I have a function which return 1 plus 1, and I'd like to generate spec, and let's generate an integer for it. And I'd like to create another function which bar takes an argument, one argument, and it return it. And I'd like to generate the specification, and it will take an integer and return the integer. So after that, the main idea that when I try to call the bar function, and the basic completion provides me a lot of functions and so on. But I hit a special kind of so-called smart completion, but it's not a smart, it's about type inference, and it provides only functions which use the return type of integer. So this is a small list. It's a function bar, foo, binary to integer, and list to integer, and so on. So it's very useful. also it's variable A, which is integer, and variable B, which is string. And it's very funny fact that it's only variable A this type of condition, because string has another type not compatible with integer. So it's at the moment it's initial implementation of this feature, but I hope it will be improved the same. I don't know when, but I will do my best. And at last, but not least, it's some kind of experiment also. It's creates not a plugin for IntelliJ, it's about creating a new IDE. It's a new standalone project, and today I'll show you how it looks like. It's at the moment, it's really looks the same as IntelliJ, but without any Java support and so on. It's only about Erlang and Erlang developer. When I have a time, I will remove all unnecessary things from all menus and from other stuff. But in a nutshell, it's the same as a plugin, but it's more easy to start with these products because you don't need to install some plugins to do anything. So it's almost the same source code, the same binaries, but another title, another splash screen. So we'll see. Maybe some of you will drop me email and say, wow, it will be cool to have a standalone IDE. I don't know exactly. It's some kind of research. I need to understand what people think about it, and maybe some of you like to have it. Maybe not. I don't know. And it's links. If somebody like to know where you can find the idea project or this plugin, you can do it. Thank you.
So we have plenty of time for questions. Yes?
I have a question about your debugger and the console that run your node. Is it possible to actually connect with the remote shell to another node running somewhere in the system and attach the debugger and run some steps and all that stuff?
Yes, it is possible. And
the question was about possible to use our console as a remote debugger or a remote shell transfers. Yes, it's possible. You can provide your information about your remote nodes to the special text box, and after it will work.
Can you dynamically attach the debugger and then detach it? So can my node continue running but for a certain period?
It's better to ask Sergey because he's introduced debugger support last year, and Sergey can.
yeah, so you are capable of doing that. It's just running the console, which where you specify the node you are trying to connect to. And after you detach the debugger, it just disables the debugging, so it can continue running as it did before.
Another question.
Yeah, sure.
Do you still maintain this standard project structure of folders like source, include, EPM, or you guys have some different?
We still have this project structure, but it is configurable. You can change it in whatever way you like.
Can I reference external projects? Include like -PA, -PZ kind of references for binaries and other projects?
Partially, yes. So you can reference these projects by setting them in your SDK dependencies, or you can import them as other projects inside your project. But I'm going to make something that would allow you just to attach remote projects. So you just set a path to it, and it's indexed. You have all these files from other projects. So it is there partially, but it is one thing that we have yet to improve.
More questions?
Planning to come with a Elixir version at some point?
What?
Version for Elixir at some point?
Elixir version.
Elixir version, do you know anything about it?
Repeat
So,
the question as well.
the question was about Elixir support in the plugin, and currently it is not supported, and we really don't have any plans for supporting it.
I was wondering, some features of IntelliJ are only offered in the paid-for version, such as Python support.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to remain free to have this Erlang support, or are you going to get tied into
The question was about the plugin. Is it going to be free as it is now, or is it going to be a paid project? So Sergey is the better one to ask this.
At the moment, it's an open source project. You can define it on the GitHub page, and we have no plans to close the sources because it's inconvenient at the moment because we haven't some commercial project. So at the moment it's free and open source, and we have no plans to close it. Yes.
If you have a license,
when you're using the debugger and you have your debug console open, you have the automatic command completion. But that's a bit annoying if you're using the spacebar, it's maybe filling in everything. And is that adjustable? I couldn't find it.
Could you repeat it once again? What could you couldn't find?
When you're debugging a program and you have your debug console open and you have your Erlang console within the debug environment, you're typing things in, it's automatically filling in automatic command completion, and that's really a bit annoying.
Oh, really? That is kind of surprising.
You can easily.
I will show you if you would like. So.
By the way, on my current project in my laptop, not in presentation mode, on my current work, I switched off this auto-completion because it's a little bit annoying for me as well. But it really depends when you like to reach, because when you like to understand how the project, which models can you use there and so on, and it's might be useful because when you are a newcomer to the project, it's useful to understand which model can you complete there. But when you're some kind of veteran for this project, it's not important, and you can switch it as well. So.
Yeah, well, the annoying thing is when you try.
No, you can avoid any.
No, it's not. Well, I couldn't find it where to set it on or off. So.
If you'd like, I can show you.
Okay, that's fine.
But this year we have previous release we've done a lot of work about removing all unnecessary things from user interface, from completion and so on. Now you can run your IDE like one big black or white screen is like you can saw it several minutes ago, and without annoying toolbars, tool windows, buttons, and so on. It's very useful.
if you have a subscription to one of their products, like RubyCon, does this work with that, or do you have to pull down something separate, like
Could you repeat the question?
Please repeat the question.
The question was, can you use this plugin having subscription to another IntelliJ product like RubyMine, WebStorm, or anything else? Yes, it is possible, but the version of the plugin which works with RubyMine and WebStorm has its limitations, and it only supports rebar project structure. And you can only use rebar for building projects, running tests, and stuff like that.
So can you bring that down separately and it's not
What's that again?
Was there a conflict?
use IDE, the IDE?
Yes, there are some API conflicts so that we cannot bring the full support.
Maybe I can clearly answer the question because at the moment we not mentioned it about you have a bunch of IDE built on the top of one platform, and several of them are free, like it's a community edition of IntelliJ and Python PyCharm for Python. It's completely free, and you can use this plugin as well for these products. So if you'd like to use only Erlang without any, for instance, JavaScript support, you can download free version of IntelliJ and install free plugin, and it's no cost money for you. But if you'd like to use complicated project with Ruby for RubyMine and Erlang as well, you can install this plugin to RubyMine, but it's a little bit restricted because not all features from the platform are inside RubyMine. For instance, you will have some compiler, native compiler by IntelliJ, because it's technically impossible at the moment. But last year we improved the situation, and at the moment you can run this plugin on top of all IntelliJ IDEs.
More questions?
You guys have SQL Clip imports from Eclipse project?
What kind of Eclipse projects? From?
Erlang?
No, I'm not sure about it. We have a import from Eclipse project for Java projects. I'm 100% sure about it, but I never tried to convert Erlang projects from Eclipse. If it makes sense, we can make a converter because it's not too hard to read, maybe a half day.
By the way, you guys are welcome to make feature requests, pull requests, and contribute in all other ways. You can use the GitHub account for that, and you're welcome to do that.